In this morning's session, somebody mentioned that the question of climate change should be one of our key campaigning priorities, and I think it's probably a good time to talk about how important that is, given that yesterday there was a cyclone in Bangladesh which has had a devastating impact on quite a large part of the country, and I think that people should be aware, as indeed I'm sure we are in this room and increasingly in society, that one of the consequences of climate change and increased temperature rises are the increase in the number of those kind of aspects of changes in the weather. And what stands out and what will stand out from the cyclone in Bangladesh, as it did with Hurricane Katrina, is it's the poorest countries that will suffer most from these changes in weather patterns, and it's the poorest countries that can mitigate least against those changes in weather patterns in terms of the impact over the infrastructure. We have a heat wave here and we know how bad it is. Imagine a heat wave in some of the poorest parts of the world. But there's a worse irony in the new situation, in that it's the poorest countries that are now being blamed the most for the changes in our climate. It's India and China that are suddenly now the new problem, the cause of the rise in emissions, etc., etc. And I think it's incredibly important that within this room we understand some of the politics of the situation. I think the debate over climate change is three things have happened. First of all, our politicians used to deny it was happening, deny that our society, the way we live, had anything to do with the situation whatsoever. The second thing they do is then, like I said, to lay the blame somewhere else. It's not George Bush that's the problem. It's not the big oil companies that are the problem. It's the poor developing countries that are the problem. Or it's the working class in the West that are the problem with our lifestyles, etc., etc. And then the third thing I think that they do is they talk about their solutions to the problem. And their solutions are the market. The market isn't a solution to the problem. The only thing that the market is doing for the question of climate change is to create a market to make money out of the problem of the question of climate change. Or they talk about taxes, and let's be clear, with taxes, the rich will still be able to fly, the rich will still be able to drive their cars, it's the poor that will suffer. So I want to finish up on 2 points. I think it is important that we are involved with this question. We've got a fine record so far. At last year's demonstration with the campaign against climate change, Rania Khan, our councillor, spoke, and we've been involved with building the demonstration. But 2 things. Let's build this year's demonstration, which is on December the 8th. Let's make sure that we have as many of our local branch banners and as many activists on that demonstration as possible. In February next year, there's going to be a campaign against climate change trade union conference. Come and see me if you want motions or leaflets about that, because we have to fight not just to take people on the streets over this issue, but we have to stay engaged with the politics of this issue. Because if we are going to find answers, it's about changing our society, providing collective answers to society's problems, not blaming individuals or poorer countries for the problem. Let's change the way that we live in order to deal with the problems of climate change. Let's fight for a society that puts need before profit and therefore solve the way of living which doesn't cause these problems in the future.